The Munsters, a classic TV show from the 1960s, has earned its place as one of the most beloved sitcoms of all time. Think you know everything about this quirky family? Think again. From behind-the-scenes secrets to fun facts about the cast and production, we're uncovering some surprises even the biggest fans might have missed. Sit back and dive into the spooky, fun world of the Munsters. Leave it to Beaver. Joe Connolly and Bob Mosher, the creative minds behind Leave It to Beaver, followed a simple motto when writing and producing: write what you know. With 6 children between them, they often drew inspiration from their own family lives to shape the storylines of their shows. This approach carried over when they created The Munsters, a sitcom about a suburban family of monsters. They wanted the show to be fun, not scary, so they made Herman Munster a regular working dad who carried a lunchbox to his job every day. He also shared wise advice with his son Eddie, just like any good father would. The mother, Lily, was nurturing and caring despite occasionally serving strange dishes like rolled hyena foot roast for dinner. And of course, Grandpa lived with the family, conducting experiments in his dungeon laboratory. All these elements were designed to give the Munsters the warm, family-friendly vibe of a typical American sitcom, just with a twist. Interestingly, The Munsters and Leave It to Beaver were both hit shows for CBS, even though they couldn't be more different. The Munsters was almost a parody of Leave It to Beaver, turning the typical American family on its head with a monster-filled household. The two shows shared a lot of behind-the-scenes connections, including filming on the same Universal Pictures lot. In fact, you can spot the Munsters' iconic house in a few Leave It to Beaver episodes, making for a fun crossover that fans still enjoy. Fade to black and white. When the Munsters first aired in 1964, color TV was already becoming popular, but the show was filmed in black and white. This decision surprised some viewers, especially since other TV shows were being shot in color by then. There were a few reasons behind this choice, with cost being the main factor. Filming in black and white was much cheaper than in color, and at the time, CBS wasn't ready to spend extra money on the new technology. Interestingly, the original pilot for the Munsters, titled My Fair Munster, was shot in color. However, after test screenings, CBS decided to stick with the classic black and white format. One reason was that executives worried the spooky characters might scare kids if they were in color. They also thought that black and white would give the show a nostalgic feel, similar to the old Universal monster movies that inspired the characters. While the black and white format worked for the show's eerie atmosphere, it eventually became a challenge. In 1966, ABC launched the Batman TV show, which was filmed in bright, bold colors, attracting viewers away from the more muted world of the Munsters. This shift in preferences, along with other factors, led to the show's cancellation after just 2 seasons. It's fun to think about how the show might have fared if it had embraced color from the start. Would the colorful version have been just as iconic, or even more so? Old friends. Before Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis became the iconic Herman and Grandpa on the Munsters, they worked together on the police comedy Car 54, Where Are You? The show aired from 1961 to 1963 and followed 2 mismatched New York police officers. Gwynne played Officer Francis Muldoon, while Lewis portrayed Officer Leo Schnauzer. Their chemistry on Car 54 laid the foundation for their later roles on the Munsters. On the show, their bond as Herman and Grandpa became a central part of the show's charm. The two actors' previous collaboration helped them create a natural, believable relationship between their characters. The closeness they shared on screen was evident in their comedic timing and ability to play off each other's strengths. Their strong rapport made their interactions feel real, from the affectionate moments to the funny conflicts between Herman and Grandpa. In 1962, Car 54 won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Comedy. These 2 iconic actors' performances contributed to the show's success. Their established partnership made it easy for them to jump into their new roles as lovable monsters, even despite the challenge of performing in heavy makeup and costumes. The deep connection between Gwynne and Lewis was clear in both shows. This made their comedic performances unforgettable. Their friendship lasted long after the Munsters was canceled, showing how strong their bond truly was. Who's Phoebe? The creation of Lily Munster, the beloved matriarch of the Munsters, took an unexpected turn during the show's development. In the original pilot, the character of Herman Munster's wife was named Phoebe and was portrayed by Joan Marshall. However, CBS executives felt that Marshall's portrayal closely resembled Morticia Addams from the rival show The Addams Family. To avoid any confusion or accusations of copying, the decision was made to recast the role. This led to the introduction of Yvonne De Carlo as Lily Munster, a choice that would significantly shape the show's dynamics. As the core cast built a stronger working relationship, the chemistry between them improved. Lily Munster soon became the heart of the family, providing love and acceptance to her unusual brood. Her character's warmth resonated with audiences and played a key role in the show's lasting popularity. The transformation from Phoebe to Lily helped the Munsters evolve into the quirky, lovable family we remember today. The voice of the Raven. Mel Blanc, known as the Man of 1,000 Voices, was a legendary voice actor. He brought to life some of the most beloved cartoon characters, including Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig. What many people might not know is that Blanc also lent his voice to a small but memorable role on the Munsters. In the show, there was a cuckoo clock in the Munster family's living room. Instead of the usual cuckoo bird, though, a raven would pop out and dramatically say, "Nevermore." This was a reference to Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, The Raven. And behind that iconic voice was none other than Mel Blanc. Blanc was known for voicing over 500 characters during his career, making him the most sought-after voice actor of his time. Blanc was often busy voicing his big-name characters, so sometimes another voice actor, Bob Hastings, would step in for the Raven when Blanc wasn't available. But for the most part, it was Blanc's distinctive voice that gave life to the Raven's dramatic line. This added an extra layer of humor and star power to the Munsters' quirky world. Royalty-free. CBS made a clever business move when creating the Munsters. Instead of just another typical family sitcom, they decided to make the characters based on famous movie monsters from Universal Studios. This turned a normal family show into something unique, combining spooky monsters with classic family comedy. This decision worked out well for CBS for several reasons. By using Universal's well-known monsters, they attracted older fans who loved classic horror movies. However, they also gained new viewers who were excited to see a fresh take on a family sitcom. CBS had already been airing Universal's classic films on TV since the 1950s, so they knew there was a strong fan base for these characters. Additionally, using props and costumes from Universal Studios saved CBS money and kept the show authentic. They didn't have to create everything from scratch. It also made it easier to create merchandise, which helped the show make more money. The mix of familiar monsters with a fun, family-friendly twist made the Munsters a hit. Because Universal Studios owned the rights to classic monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein, CBS had a big advantage over its competitor, ABC's The Addams Family. This connection helped the Munsters top the ratings, with its instantly recognizable characters drawing in viewers. It was a smart move that helped the Munsters become one of TV's most iconic sitcoms. Not the first choice for Grandpa. Before Al Lewis was cast as the iconic Grandpa Munster on the Munsters, the role was offered to Burt Lahr. He was an actor best known for his portrayal of the Cowardly Lion in The Wizard of Oz. It's unclear why Lahr turned down the role, as there isn't much information about his decision. But this left the door open for Al Lewis, who would soon bring the character of Grandpa to life in a way that would make him unforgettable. When Al Lewis took on the role, he became a fan favorite thanks to his perfect blend of old-world charm, comedic timing, and quirky energy. His witty remarks, supernatural shenanigans, and endearing relationship with his monster family made Grandpa Munster stand out in the show. The role quickly became one of the highlights of the Munsters, and Lewis's performance is still remembered as one of the best in TV history. Burt Lahr might have been the original choice for Grandpa Munster, but it's hard to imagine anyone else in the role after seeing how perfectly Al Lewis fit. Sometimes, the most memorable characters come from unexpected circumstances. If Lar had accepted the part, the Munsters could have turned out very differently. In the end, Al Lewis's portrayal of Grandpa Munster became a classic, proving that sometimes the best things happen when plans don't go as expected. 3 roles. Fred Gwynne showcased his acting talent in more ways than one role during the show's 70 episodes. He was primarily known for playing the lovable, misunderstood patriarch of the Munster family, Herman. But he also took on 2 other memorable roles. In addition to Herman Munster, Fred Gwynne portrayed Herman's twin brother Charlie, who added an interesting twist to the show. The character of Charlie was a fun way to show a family resemblance between the 2 characters, and it allowed Fred to showcase his versatility. But that's not all. Gwynne also played Johann, a rejected creation of Dr. Frankenstein. This role allowed Fred to show his range even further, bringing another quirky yet memorable character to life. These extra roles not only highlighted the creativity and humor that the Munsters was known for, but also proved how talented Fred Gwynne was as an actor. Gwynne's ability to portray such different characters in a single show made the Munsters even more fun to watch, and it's a testament to his acting skills and versatility. Link to a movie. The Munsters was a show that connected viewers with the classic monster movies from Universal Studios, thanks to its familiar characters and iconic sets. NBC Universal Television Distribution distributed the show. This allowed the show to feature characters based on Universal's famous monsters. This helped the Munsters stand out from its competition, as viewers could instantly recognize characters like Herman Munster, who was inspired by Frankenstein's monster. One of the coolest connections to the original movies comes from the set design. Kenneth Strickfaden, a famous special effects artist, was behind the iconic lab set in the 1931 Frankenstein movie. His electric, buzzing laboratory became one of the most famous movie sets in history. Strickfaden's talents didn't stop there. He also worked on the Munsters and designed Grandpa Munster's laboratory. In fact, many of the props in Grandpa's lab were the same as those used in Dr. Frankenstein's lab, creating a direct link between the 2. This connection was a clever way to tie the show to the monster movie roots that inspired it. It also gave the Munsters an extra layer of authenticity. When viewers watched Grandpa Munster in his lab, they were seeing a bit of movie history come to life on their TV screens, thanks to the genius of Kenneth Strickfaden. The nose. When Al Lewis first began playing Grandpa Munster on the Munsters, he wore a long, prosthetic nose to help complete his vampiric look. However, the nose didn't stay on for long. After just a few episodes, the production team decided to scrap the long nose. The reason? Al Lewis kept getting it wet in his cups of coffee. As you can imagine, wearing a prosthetic nose while drinking coffee wasn't easy. The nose would get soggy and uncomfortable, so it didn't make sense to keep it. Instead, the show's creators decided to remove the long nose and go with a simpler look for Grandpa. This change worked out better for Al, as it allowed him to play the character without worrying about his coffee turning his nose into a soggy mess. This little behind-the-scenes story shows how even small changes can have a big impact on a show. It also highlights Al Lewis's dedication to his role. He was so focused on delivering the perfect performance that he didn't let something like a tricky prosthetic nose slow him down. Instead, he found a way to make Grandpa Munster look more comfortable while still being memorable. So, the next time you watch the Munsters, remember that Grandpa's iconic appearance was partly shaped by some unexpected challenges, like getting his nose too wet for comfort. The Tale of Two Marilyns. Beverly Owen played Marilyn Munster for the first 13 episodes of the Munsters, but behind the scenes, she wasn't happy with her role. Though she was well received by audiences, Owen was tricked into signing her contract and didn't want to live in California. Universal convinced her to audition for the pilot, but when the show was picked up, she wanted to back out. She told Universal she didn't want to do the show, but her talent agent, Monique James, threatened to sue if she left. Owen's unhappiness grew as she missed her fiancé, who lived on the East Coast. She would often run off the set in tears, feeling the emotional weight of being away from him. Fortunately, Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis, who played Herman and Grandpa Munster, helped Owen by speaking to the producers. She was finally released from her contract after just 13 episodes. Pat Priest was brought in to replace her as Marilyn for the rest of the show. Not only was Pat a blonde, which matched Marilyn's look, but she was also the same height and had measurements similar to Beverly's. This made it easy to fit into the existing Marilyn costumes. Pat Priest went on to play Marilyn Munster for the remainder of the series. Beverly Owen returned to New York, where she eventually found success on Another World, a soap opera filmed in her hometown. The Munsters versus the Addams Family. The Munsters and the Addams Family are two of the most famous spooky families on TV, but their similarities were just a happy accident. Both shows premiered within a week of each other in 1964. The Addams Family debuted on September 18th, and the Munsters followed on September 24th. While it might seem like one show copied the other, that wasn't the case. The truth is that both networks, ABC and CBS, independently came up with the idea for their shows. CBS had already started developing the Munsters as a parody of classic monster movies. Meanwhile, ABC decided to create a series based on Charles Addams' cartoons about a creepy family. When ABC learned that CBS was making a monster-themed sitcom, they quickly sped up production on the Addams Family to keep up with the trend. Although the shows aired so close to each other, neither network knew what the other was doing during the early stages of development. The Munsters and the Addams Family are both about eccentric, spooky families living outside of societal norms. This definitely made them appealing to audiences. The near-simultaneous premieres sparked years of comparisons between the two shows. In the end, though, it was just a coincidence that these two iconic families came to TV in the same week. Dragula. One of the most iconic elements of the Munsters is Grandpa's car, the Dragula. This spooky vehicle only appeared in one episode, but it became an instant fan favorite and has been recreated many times since. Hard rock musician Rob Zombie even named one of his songs after the Dragula, showing just how memorable it was. The Dragula was built using a real coffin, but because of legal restrictions in North Hollywood, the production team had to be a bit sneaky. In the area, you couldn't buy a coffin without a death certificate. So, project engineer George Barris made a secret deal with a funeral director. He paid for the coffin in cash and picked it up under the cover of night, using the back door of the funeral home to avoid drawing attention. Designed by Tom Daniel, who also created the Munster coach, the Dragula was a unique blend of spooky and cool. It was shown in the end credits of every second season episode, even though it only appeared in one episode of the show. The car perfectly captured the quirky, fun spirit of the Munsters. It mixed the supernatural with everyday life in a way that made it unforgettable for fans. Not sure about Yvonne. When the Munsters was first developed, the role of Lily Munster was originally played by actress Joan Marshall. But executives decided to recast her, thinking that she looked too similar to Morticia Addams. This led to Yvonne DiCarlo stepping into the role of Lily. At first, Fred Gwynne and Al Lewis, who played Herman and Grandpa, weren't too sure about DiCarlo. They were surprised that she, already a big Hollywood star, would join a TV sitcom. They were also concerned about her background in dramatic roles, like her famous performance in The Ten Commandments. They worried that her serious acting style wouldn't mesh well with the show's lighthearted, comedic tone. But over time, Gwynne and Lewis warmed up to DiCarlo. They got to know her and found that her talent and chemistry with the cast made her the perfect Lily. Her ability to balance humor with drama helped bring the show's unique charm to life, and her interactions with Gwynne and Lewis added to the fun. By the end, it was clear that Yvonne DiCarlo's portrayal of Lily Munster was a key part of what made the Munsters such an unforgettable show. Younger than you. In the Munsters, Al Lewis played Grandpa, Lily Munster's father, but there's an interesting twist. In real life, Lewis was actually younger than the actress who played his daughter, Yvonne DiCarlo. Yvonne was born on September 1, 1922, while Al Lewis was born just a year later, on April 30, 1923. Despite this, it was hard to tell their real ages because of the clever makeup and costume design used on the show. Al Lewis started acting in 1953, while Yvonne had already begun her career in 1940, making her more experienced in Hollywood. But when it came to their characters, the age difference was hidden by Hollywood magic. Grandpa was portrayed as an ancient vampire, often reminiscing about the good old days. The character's makeup made Lewis look much older than DeCarlo, who played his daughter. The fact that Al Lewis was younger than Yvonne DeCarlo yet played her father is a fun reminder of how makeup and acting can make a huge difference in a character's age. Fred Gwynne, who played Herman, was even older than both of them. But the fantastic makeup and acting made the Munster family feel real to audiences. It just goes to show how talented actors can bring their characters to life no matter their real-life ages. So hot? Fred Gwynne's portrayal of Herman Munster is iconic, but behind the scenes it came with a lot of challenges. The costume, while visually striking, was incredibly uncomfortable for Gwynne. He had to wear heavy boots with 4-inch soles. This made walking difficult. His body was padded with 40 pounds of foam rubber to create Herman's big build. The costume trapped heat, making Gwynne sweat a lot under the studio lights. In fact, during the first season, he lost 10 pounds just from sweating so much. To help him cool off, the crew used an air compressor to blow cold air into his costume between takes. Even with this, the heat was tough to handle. Gwynne also struggled with back pain because of the weight of the suit and the stiff boots. Getting into character took time too. Gwynne spent up to 2 hours in the makeup chair before filming each day. Despite all the discomfort, Gwynne's dedication to the role never wavered. His performance made Herman Munster one of the most beloved characters on television. While the costume may have been a struggle, it's clear that Gwynne's hard work and talent brought the character to life in a way that fans will always remember. Comic books. When the Munsters became a huge hit on TV, fans wanted more than just the show. They wanted toys, clothes, and even comics. But there was one big problem. The Comics Code Authority, which set the rules for what could and couldn't be in comic books, banned vampires from being shown in comics. This made it hard to create a Munsters comic because Grandpa Munster was, of course, a vampire. However, Gold Key Comics found a way around this problem. They were an independent company and didn't have to follow the strict rules of the Comics Code Authority. From 1965 to 1968, Gold Key published 16 issues of the Munsters comic. They did something clever for the covers. Rather than using drawings of the characters, they used real photos from the TV show. This allowed fans to see their favorite actors on the covers while reading new Munster adventures. Gold Key's comics gave fans a chance to enjoy the Munsters world in a way they couldn't on TV. The first issue remains one of the company's most valuable publications to this day. The success of these comics showed other companies that there was a way to make fun and exciting comics, even with the rules in place. It's a great example of how thinking outside the box can lead to something special. Eddie Switch Out. When the Munsters first aired, some of the characters were recast after the pilot episode. One of the biggest changes was with Eddie Munster, the only child in the family who was also a werewolf. In the pilot, Eddie was played by Happy Durman, but the network felt his performance was too wolf-like for the show's family-friendly tone. Durman's portrayal was a bit too extreme, with lots of growling and clawing, which didn't fit the quirky humor the show was going for. As a result, Butch Patrick was brought in to take over the role. Patrick played Eddie in a way that was more mischievous and relatable. This made the character feel more like a pointy-eared version of the classic character Beaver Cleaver. This recasting helped shape Eddie into the lovable character fans knew and loved. Interestingly, Butch Patrick and Fred Gwynne, who played Herman Munster, weren't the creators' first choices. The role of Herman was initially offered to actor John Carradine, famous for his work in westerns. Billy Mooney, a child actor known for his role in Lost in Space, was considered for Eddie. In the 1980s, the Munster family returned for a movie called The Munsters' Revenge, but once again Eddie was recast, this time with Casey Martell. Despite these changes, the show's mix of quirky humor and family dynamics turned the Munsters into a classic. Bonus: Cheerios. The Munsters became so popular that even Cheerios wanted to get in on the fun. The show's quirky charm and lovable characters made it a hit with viewers of all ages, but it was especially popular with kids. So, in a clever marketing move, Cheerios decided to feature the Munster family in one of their commercials. In the commercial, the entire family is shown in their usual funny situations, with everything tying back to Cheerios. Eddie Munster, the young werewolf, even narrates the ad saying, "Daddy said they're the best thing since bat wings." This line is a perfect example of how the show's playful, spooky humor was blended into the commercial. By featuring the Munsters, Cheerios was able to connect with a younger audience that loved the show and probably ate cereal more than adults. It was a smart move since kids were a big part of the show's fan base. The commercial not only boosted Cheerios' popularity, but also helped make the Munsters an even bigger cultural phenomenon. It's just one example of how the show's success went beyond TV, reaching into advertising and becoming a part of everyday life for fans. Bonus 2. The Munster Mobile. The Munster coach is one of the most iconic cars in TV history, and it wasn't just your typical ride. Hollywood custom car builder George Barris, known for his amazing creations, used 3 Model T Ford bodies to create this unforgettable vehicle. The car measured a massive 18 feet long, a perfect fit for Herman Munster's tall and quirky character. Barris and his team hand-formed the brass radiator and fenders, giving the car a classic, spooky look. Even the velvet upholstery was made in blood red, adding to the eerie charm of the vehicle. It took 21 days to finish the car, costing a total of $18,000, which was a big deal back in the 1960s. The Munster coach was designed by Tom Daniel, who originally created the design for just $200. After that, the show's producers contacted Barris Customs to build it. The car was worked on by Tex Smith, but it was completed by the shop foreman at the time, Dick Dean. The Munster coach made appearances in 20 episodes of The Munsters throughout the show's 2-year run. It became an essential part of the series, driving around the Munster family and adding to the fun, spooky atmosphere. With its unique design and eye-catching features, the Munster coach is still remembered as one of the coolest cars to ever appear on TV. Wow, wasn't that a fun trip down memory lane? The Munsters had more behind-the-scenes surprises than anyone could have guessed. From the unexpected recasting of Eddie Munster to the quirky Cheerios commercial, this classic show was full of fascinating moments that shaped it into the iconic favorite we know and love today. Which of these secrets surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more fun facts and stories about your favorite TV shows and movies. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.